My beloved, have you ever felt the stillness before dawn? When the world is quiet and it's just you and your thoughts, that time before Fajr is not ordinary, it's sacred. It's when the heart softens, the soul awakens, and the gates of mercy are wide open. When you wake before Fajr, it's more than losing a bit of sleep. It's gaining a connection. It's whispering to Allah while the world rests and finding peace that no amount of daylight can give. Wake up before Fajr and you'll see how not just your mornings, but your whole life begins to change. There's a kind of silence that only exists before Fajr. It's not the same as the silence of midnight or the quiet that lingers after everyone has gone to sleep. It's a sacred silence, the kind that feels alive. The world hasn't yet woken, but heaven has already opened its gates. The angels descend, and the most merciful calls out, inviting those who are awake to ask, to seek, to return. And it is in this time, this short window before the dawn, that the most transformative moments of the soul are born. When you wake up before Fajr, you are not just breaking sleep, you are breaking the chains of your nafs. You are defying comfort for connection, trading rest for remembrance. It's a quiet rebellion against heedlessness and a declaration that your heart belongs not to this world, but to the one who created it. Before Fajr, your dua carries a different weight. It isn't the same as the dua made in the rush of the day or in the exhaustion of night. It's raw, honest, uncluttered by distraction. It's you, in your truest form, speaking to the one who knows you more intimately than you know yourself. The stillness of that time gives your words wings and they rise, and you feel it. The nearness, the softness, the mercy. You feel that the distance between you and peace begins to shrink. When you stand in prayer before the world wakes, your heart begins to heal in ways that daylight could never manage. The worries that weigh on you, the heartbreaks that seem unbearable, the sins that feel like chains, all begin to melt in the warmth of His presence. Because in that sacred hour, the light of Fajr begins before the sun ever rises. It begins inside you. Waking before Fajr teaches discipline, yes, but more than that, it teaches love. It teaches you to show up for Allah when no one else sees, when no one else claps, when no one else knows. It is sincerity in its purest form. And in that sincerity, transformation begins. The blessings that pour from this time are not always seen immediately, but they shape everything. You begin to notice how your heart softens, how your patience grows, how your outlook on hardship shifts. The same problems may still be there, but you face them with a steadiness that wasn't there before. That's what happens when you connect to the source of peace. Before the world even starts demanding your energy, your day changes, your mindset changes. Your entire rhythm aligns with divine timing. The Prophet told us that in the last third of the night, our Lord descends to the lowest heaven, calling out, "Who is calling upon me that I may answer him? Who is asking of me that I may give him?" This is not just an invitation. It's a love letter. It's a promise that you are never alone, that your whispers are heard even in the dark, and that your efforts are seen even if no one else ever notices. And when you start waking up before Fajr, you begin to live in that reality. You stop chasing validation because you've already felt the gaze of the most compassionate. You stop fearing the future because you've already spoken to the one who controls it. And you stop regretting the past because you've learned what it means to be forgiven. To wake before Fajr is to wake up to life itself. It's to step out of the fog of heedlessness and breathe in the clarity of faith. It's a training ground for the soul, a place where you build consistency, gratitude, and resilience. When your alarm goes off and every part of you wants to turn it off and sleep, that's where your battle begins. And every time you win that battle, even if it's small, something inside you grows stronger. You learn to command your desires instead of being commanded by them. You learn that true rest doesn't come from sleep. It comes from submission. Those few moments before dawn hold the power to rewire your heart, to reset your focus, to realign your purpose. Because when you meet Allah before Fajr, you don't just start your day, you start your soul anew. And little by little, you begin to see it. How your anxiety lightens, how your dua starts to unfold in unexpected ways, how Barakah enters your hours. You find clarity where there was confusion, peace where there was chaos, hope where there was despair. That's the power of this time. It transforms not just your mornings, but your life. There's something profoundly sacred about those secret conversations that take place before dawn. The ones no one else hears, no one else witnesses, and no one else will ever know about. When you sit in that pre-Fajr stillness, with your heart trembling and your lips whispering, you begin to realize that this is what your soul was created for. It's not the noise of the world that gives meaning to your life. It's the silence shared between you and your Creator. Those quiet whispers become the language of love between the human heart and the divine. When the world is asleep and your heart is awake, your words carry a purity that daytime conversations can't match. You speak without pretense, without performance, without fear. You don't have to sound strong. You don't have to look composed. You just have to be real. And in that rawness, you discover that Allah listens with a compassion far deeper than you've ever known. Before Fajr, your tears become your translators. You may not know how to express the depth of your pain or the confusion that clouds your heart, but your tears do. Every drop that falls carries meaning, sincerity, and surrender. And it is in this surrender that transformation begins. Those who cry before Fajr aren't weak. They are being cleansed. They are being softened, purified, and prepared. Every tear that falls in that sacred hour is an unspoken dua, a silent plea that rises beyond the clouds and reaches the throne of the most merciful. And the beauty of it is, you don't even have to say much. Sometimes the most powerful prayers are wordless, just a heart turned toward its maker. It's in these secret conversations that your destiny starts to shift. Because what you ask for in that silence doesn't stay in that silence. It travels, it ascends, and it returns as mercy, as protection, as barakah. You might not see it right away, but you'll feel it in the peace that fills your chest, in the strange coincidences that align your path, in the ease that suddenly surrounds your hardest moments. You'll begin to notice that things that used to shake you no longer do, that wounds which once defined you start to fade. That's what happens when you start speaking to the one who never sleeps. He listens when no one else can, and he answers in ways you don't always understand but always need. When you make it a habit to talk to Allah before Fajr, your entire life begins to reorder itself around that conversation. Your mind becomes clearer. Your decisions start to carry light. Your relationships become more grounded in compassion because you're no longer speaking from ego or exhaustion. You're speaking from alignment. You're living with a heart that's been dipped in remembrance before the day even begins. The world might still throw challenges at you, but your perspective changes. You stop seeing problems as punishments and start recognizing them as invitations, calls to come closer, to rely more deeply, to trust more fully. And there's another miracle that happens in these pre-dawn moments. Your dua begins to mature. In the beginning, you might ask for things, specific, detailed, urgent requests, but over time, your conversation deepens. You start asking not only for outcomes, but for states of being. You begin to pray for contentment more than success, for sincerity more than recognition, for guidance more than control. You realize that the true gift of waking before Fajr is not what you get, it's who you become. You start to crave that time not out of duty, but out of love. The clock may say it's 4 a.m., but your soul knows it's home. The world around you may never know the secret reasons behind your strength, your calm, your glow, but you'll know it's the result of those whispered conversations with the divine. When others wonder how you keep going despite heartbreak, how you smile despite loss, or how you stay hopeful despite uncertainty, the answer will be simple. Because you talk to Allah before Fajr, you speak to Him before you speak to the world. You seek His approval before you seek anyone else's. You find your worth not in how the world sees you, but in how He hears you. These secret conversations before dawn are not just moments of devotion. They are meetings of love, appointments of mercy. They remind you that you are seen. Even when forgotten, they anchor you when life feels uncertain. And most importantly, they shape your destiny in ways unseen. What you whisper in those hours can change the entire course of your day, and sometimes the entire course of your life, because in that sacred silence, when you speak to the one who commands the morning, you invite light into every corner of your existence. And that light never leaves you. Every tear shed before sunrise is more powerful than 1,000 words spoken during the day. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign that your heart has softened enough to feel again. In the stillness before Fajr, when the world sleeps and no one sees, the eyes that shed tears are seen by the one whose gaze never turns away. Those tears are not wasted, not a single one. They are collected, cherished, and answered in ways you may never expect. When your heart trembles before your Creator, those tears become your greatest offering. They wash away the dust that the world leaves on your soul. They clean the mirror of your heart so that light can reflect again. Because sometimes it isn't your sins that distance you from Allah. It's your inability to feel the weight of them. And when the tears come, it means the veil has lifted. It means your heart is awake again. Before Fajr, when you sit with your forehead bowed and your eyes wet, something divine happens. Your heart speaks in a language the tongue could never form. You may not even know what to say, but the tears carry your story. They tell Allah about your fears, your regrets, your exhaustion, your loneliness. They speak of how much you've tried and how many times you've failed, but still come back, still hope, still love Him. And the beauty of it is Allah understands every drop. He knows the difference between the tear of guilt and the tear of longing, between the tear of pain and the tear of gratitude. He knows which one fell out of love, which one fell out of fear, and which one fell simply because your soul missed Him. These tears shed before Fajr are not signs of defeat. They are the beginning of victory, because it is only when the heart melts that it can be reshaped. It's in those fragile moments that transformation begins. You might rise from your prayer mat with swollen eyes, but a heart cleaner than it was the night before. You might look tired on the outside, but your soul feels alive again, and you'll realize something profound. Those tears didn't weaken you. They watered your faith. They nourished the seeds of patience, humility, and trust that Allah has planted within you. When you cry before Fajr, you're not just expressing emotion, you're performing an act of worship. The Prophet once said that a person who weeps out of fear of Allah will not be touched by the fire. Why? Because tears that fall for him come from a heart that knows Him. They come from a place of recognition of His greatness, His mercy, His closeness. In those tears is love, awe, and surrender. It's the soul saying, I can't do this alone, and finding peace in that admission. Because the truth is, we were never meant to do it alone. And as you continue to wake before Fajr and pour your heart out, you begin to notice something subtle but powerful. The world doesn't affect you the same way anymore. The same pain that once broke you now teaches you. The same hardship that once made you question now deepens your faith, because your heart has learned where to release its burdens. Not to people, not to distractions, but to the one who can truly carry them. Your tears stop being symbols of sadness and become symbols of connection. They become sacred, a bridge between your fragility and His strength. There will be days when those tears flow easily, and days when they don't come at all. But even when your eyes are dry, if your heart feels that ache of yearning, that's still worship. Allah sees what even your tears cannot express. He knows when your heart cries, even if your eyes cannot. And in those moments of silence, He counts it all. Because what matters is not how much you cry, but how sincerely your soul turns toward Him. The tears are simply signs that your heart is alive, that your faith still beats beneath the noise of life. Sometimes you'll notice that. After those pre-dawn tears, your day unfolds differently. The same stress you used to carry feels lighter. The same people who once irritated you don't bother you as much. There's a calm, a softness that follows you. That's not coincidence. That's Barakah. That's the residue of your secret worship. The sweetness that lingers from those quiet hours of sincerity. You'll start to realize that Allah never leaves a heart empty after it's been sincere with Him. He replaces pain with peace, guilt with forgiveness, and confusion with clarity. So let your eyes weep when they need to. Let your tears fall in the stillness of that hour when the sky is dark and the world is quiet. Because those tears are not signs of despair. They are signs that you're still reaching for hope. They are proof that even after being broken, your heart still chooses to return. Every tear before sunrise writes a story of faith rediscovered, of repentance accepted, of love rekindled, and every one of those stories is seen, remembered, and rewarded by the one who knows the language of your tears better than you ever could. The strength you gain in solitude before Fajr is unlike any other strength you will ever experience. It's not the kind of power that makes noise or seeks attention. It's quiet, rooted, unshakable. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need to prove itself, because it's born from connection, not pride. When you rise before dawn and stand in front of your Creator, you are building a kind of resilience that the world cannot take from you. You're training your soul in the school of sincerity, learning how to find peace even in struggle, how to remain firm even when life feels uncertain. In that silence, when it's just you and Allah, you discover a strength that no amount of wealth, fame, or human support could ever provide. Solitude before Fajr is not loneliness. It's sacred companionship. It's the moment when you realize that you're never really alone, even if the room is empty. You start to feel the presence of the one who listens when no one else does, who comforts without words, who strengthens without condition. And that realization changes everything. Because once you've experienced the power of standing before Allah in the stillness of night, the noise of the day no longer controls you, the opinions of people no longer define you, the chaos of the world no longer overwhelms you. You've already tasted a peace that nothing else can match, and you carry that peace into every storm. When you wake before Fajr, you're doing something more profound than simply waking early. You're disciplining your soul to prioritize the eternal over the temporary. You're reminding your heart that success isn't measured by how much you achieve in the daylight, but by how often you remember your Lord in the darkness. Every morning that you rise, even when you're tired, even when you don't feel motivated, you are declaring, "My heart belongs to something higher." That's strength, the kind of strength that comes not from perfection, but from perseverance, the kind that grows every time you choose Allah over comfort. Every time you drag yourself out of bed for His sake, even when no one else knows, even when no one else cares. It's in those moments that Allah begins to build something inside you, something invisible but powerful. You start to notice it in your reactions, in your patience, in your ability to let go. You find yourself calmer in chaos, softer in conflict, firmer in faith. The same challenges that once crushed you begin to feel lighter, not because they've changed, but because you've become anchored. The storms still come, but they can't uproot you anymore, because your roots now lie in the soil of remembrance, watered by sincerity, nourished by discipline. That's the quiet power of Fajr. It shapes your inner world so deeply that the outer world can no longer shake it. And that solitude doesn't just strengthen your will, it refines your heart. You begin to see things differently. You stop chasing the validation of people who are never meant to define your worth. You stop fearing the future because you've learned to trust the one who writes it. You stop resenting pain because you've seen how Allah uses it to draw you closer. Solitude before Fajr becomes your sanctuary, the place where your broken pieces are gathered, where your spirit is refilled, where your soul remembers who it belongs to. And that kind of remembrance makes you powerful in the most gentle way possible. When the world sees you, they might see someone ordinary, but what they don't see is the secret between you and your Lord, the conversations in the dark, the whispered du'as, the silent tears. They don't see the battles you fought on your prayer mat. They don't see the nights you've surrendered your fears to Allah. They don't see how that solitude has molded you into someone who walks with quiet confidence, who smiles through hardship, who forgives easily, who trusts deeply, because the strength that comes from solitude isn't loud. It radiates quietly through your character, through your patience, through your peace. And perhaps the most beautiful part of it all is this: the strength you gain before Fajr doesn't just protect you, it uplifts others. When you carry light, you become a source of light. Your calm becomes contagious. Your faith inspires. Your patience gives others hope. You begin to live in a way that reminds people of Allah, not through your words, but through your presence. And all of it started in those silent moments when you chose to meet your Creator before the dawn. So wake up, even when it's hard. Sit in that silence. Even when your mind is heavy, speak to Allah, even if all you can say is help me. Because every time you rise in solitude before Fajr, you are being rebuilt. stronger, softer, wiser, closer, and that strength, born in the quiet, will carry you through every noise, every trial, every heartbreak the day might bring. It is the kind of strength that doesn't fade with time because it comes from the timeless one himself. The discipline of early rising is not just about waking up, it's about awakening. Every time you pull yourself from the comfort of your bed before Fajr, you're training more than your body. You're training your soul. You're telling your desires, you don't own me. You're telling your laziness, you don't control me. And you're telling your heart, you were made for something higher than sleep. This discipline isn't easy. It's a quiet struggle, a daily test between comfort and calling. But it's through that struggle that transformation takes root. When you fight your own excuses in those dark hours and still rise to meet your Lord, you begin to understand what it means to be truly alive. You start to feel the sweetness of discipline, that strange, beautiful peace that only comes after you've conquered yourself. Discipline before Fajr teaches you to be constant in a world that's always shifting. It teaches you to move with purpose. When the world moves with distraction, you learn the sacred art of showing up, not for people, not for applause, but for Allah alone. And that consistency spills into every part of your life. You start to see barakah in your time, focus in your mind, calm in your heart. The same tasks that used to feel overwhelming suddenly feel manageable. The same challenges that used to drain you no longer have the same power. Because when you master your mornings, you master your days. And when you master your days, you begin to master your life. The discipline of waking before Fajr is not just about prayer, it's about becoming. It reshapes the way you think, the way you react, the way you prioritize. It teaches you that success doesn't come from wishing. It comes from effort, from sacrifice, from surrender. The act of leaving your bed when your body begs for rest becomes a spiritual declaration. My purpose is greater than my comfort. And that declaration doesn't just echo in the quiet of your room. It echoes in the way you live. You become more intentional, more grounded, more awake to what truly matters. The discipline of Fajr becomes the heartbeat of your soul, steady, alive, unstoppable. And the truth is, this kind of discipline doesn't happen overnight. Some mornings you'll win, other mornings you'll fail. But every attempt matters. Every small victory counts. Because with each effort, Allah sees you, your struggle, your effort, your sincerity. He sees you when you fight sleep just to whisper His name. He sees you when you stumble out of bed half awake, but your heart is fully alive. And in His sight, that effort is more beloved than perfection. The discipline of Fajr is not about flawless performance. It's about consistent return. It's about coming back again and again, even when you fall short. And with time, those small acts of discipline begin to shape you in ways you never imagined. Before you know it, you begin to crave that time. The same alarm that once felt like an enemy becomes a friend. The same struggle that once felt unbearable becomes a source of sweetness. Because you realize that in those quiet moments, before the sun rises, you find yourself. You find your peace, your focus, your purpose. The discipline of early rising becomes a mirror, showing you who you are and who you're becoming. You start to see that your relationship with Allah grows not through grand gestures, but through small, consistent acts done with sincerity. And Fajr is one of those acts. A small window of time that holds infinite reward. The discipline of Fajr also trains your heart in something this world desperately lacks: balance. It teaches you to give your body its rest, but your soul its nourishment. It reminds you that true strength doesn't come from sleeping more or doing more. It comes from aligning yourself with divine rhythm. And when you align with that rhythm, waking before Fajr, remembering your Lord, grounding your day in worship, life begins to flow differently. The noise quiets, the confusion clears, the heart becomes steady. You begin to live with a rhythm that feels natural, peaceful, intentional, and slowly something changes deep within you. You stop chasing temporary motivation because discipline has replaced it. You stop relying on feelings because purpose now leads you. You start living like someone who knows where they're going and why. And that's what discipline really is: love in motion. When you wake for Fajr, you're not just performing a routine. You're proving your love. You're showing Allah that He matters more than comfort, more than habit, more than sleep. You're showing your soul that obedience is sweeter than ease. So yes, the discipline of early rising can be hard, but it's the kind of effort that reshapes everything else in your life. Because once you've conquered yourself in the darkness, no light of the day can overpower you. Once you've faced your own weakness before Allah, no trial can break you. The discipline of Fajr becomes your anchor, steady, strong, and alive. And when it beats within you, your entire life begins to beat with it. Those who seek Allah before the world awakens are never left empty-handed. Every single person who rises before Fajr, even with sleepy eyes and a heavy heart, walks away with something, though it may not always be something you can see or measure. It might not be wealth or status or instant relief, but it is always something greater. Peace, strength, guidance, light. Because when you choose Allah before the world, He chooses you in ways the world never could. There's a quiet promise hidden in those early hours, a sacred assurance that whoever stands in His presence before dawn will never face the day alone. And that promise holds true again and again. Before Fajr, the air feels different. It's not just cold, it's alive. Every moment feels thick with mercy, every breath heavy with blessing. The angels roam the earth, the gates of heaven are open, and your Lord is near, closer than He ever seems in the rush of the day. In those moments, when you sit before your Creator, you're not just performing an act of worship, you're entering into a conversation written just for you. And when you leave that prayer, something in you shifts. Maybe the problem you're facing hasn't gone away, but suddenly your heart feels lighter. The pain you carried to the prayer mat starts to loosen its grip. The fear that consumed you begins to lose its voice. That's how Allah answers. Sometimes not by changing your circumstances, but by changing how your heart meets them. Those who rise before the world do so in secret. And it is in that secrecy that their reward is hidden. No one else may know how many times you've cried in sujood, or how often you've woken to whisper your fears into the darkness. No one may ever see the effort it takes to stay awake, to fight your own fatigue, to choose Him over sleep. But He sees, and every moment of sincerity, every ounce of effort, every whispered prayer, it's all recorded, cherished, multiplied. The unseen sacrifices you make before Fajr become unseen blessings that follow you throughout the day. You begin to walk with a quiet kind of light. You speak with softness, act with patience, and think with clarity. It's as if that early communion with Allah paints your day in a hue of peace that nothing else can match. And sometimes that reward comes in ways you could never anticipate. You'll find that Allah places ease in the smallest of things. A task that used to frustrate you suddenly becomes simple. A situation that once scared you no longer holds power. You'll notice that your heart handles disappointment differently, with grace, with trust. You'll begin to recognize that every time you rose before Fajr, Allah was planting something inside you, a seed of contentment, a seed of faith, a seed of trust that slowly grows until your whole being is rooted in peace. There's a reason the early morning has been called a time of Barakah. It's not just that you get more done, it's that everything you do after connecting with Allah carries blessing within it. The light of Fajr stretches into your work, your relationships, your decisions. The same hour that others spend in sleep, you spend gathering strength from the source of all strength. And that difference becomes visible. People may not understand it, but they feel it. They see a calmness in you that doesn't make sense. They see a resilience that surprises them. And you know why? Because you've tasted the sweetness of that sacred hour, and it lingers in everything you touch. The truth is, no one who sincerely seeks Allah ever leaves empty-handed. You may ask for one thing and receive something entirely different, but it will always be exactly what your soul needs. You may ask for doors to open, and instead, He gives you patience until the right one does. You may ask for a burden to be lifted, and instead, He gives you the strength to carry it with ease. You may ask for love, and He gives you the awareness that He has loved you all along. That's how He responds, not always in the way you expect, but always in the way that heals. And the more you turn to Him before Fajr, the more you'll see that everything else you used to chase starts to chase you. Opportunities find you, peace finds you. Solutions find you, because you've started your day with the one who controls them all. You've started your day with purpose, with intention, with remembrance. You've stepped into the world already filled, not empty, not restless, not distracted. You've already received what most people spend their whole lives searching for, contentment. So no, those who seek Allah before the world awakens are never left empty-handed. They might not always get what they want, but they always get what they need. They walk through life with a light that doesn't flicker in hardship, a hope that doesn't fade in pain, a peace that doesn't depend on circumstance, because they've learned the secret that only the seekers of the night know. When you give your dawn to Allah, He gives His day to you. And when you seek Him in the quiet hours when no one else does, He remembers you in ways no one else can.